Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to talk about some of that there Rumour Daemon Engine stuff, what's been going on over the last few days. Now, I haven't really talked about this or covered it, because so far, it's been exactly what I've been expecting. See, we could quite clearly see from the art for Shadowspear and from the previews that we're getting new Chaos Space Marines, we're getting new Obliterators, we've got the Master of Possession, whatever his name is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was pretty clear. Okay, here is what we were getting out of this kit. That's quality. We had the artwork to go from, which showed us Possessed, and so far all of the Rumour Engine pictures have shown stuff that I, to be honest, have just attributed to Possessed, which I was 99% sure we were going to see anyway. I mean, there is a guy called the Master of Possession, and there is quite clearly a picture of a possessed Chaos Space Marine in the artwork. So it wasn't like a massive leap. It wasn't groundbreaking news, in my opinion, to go, see this? It's exactly what we thought it was when we first saw the artwork and we said there's going to be possessed. But now, something a bit different, because I've actually now got my hopes up a little bit, and it started to make me question stuff I've seen before. So you'll notice in the corner of the video, that side, there will have been like a rotation of images, and these are the Rumour Daemon Engine images that have been shown off. I like the thing that they're doing now, where they're having different factions take over things like Regimental Standard, and doing things like the Rumour Daemon Engine as opposed to the Rumour Engine. It's a nice shake-up, it works quite well, it's pretty funny, let's be honest. And the thing that's got me excited is that this is clearly a heavy bolter. That's nothing to do with Possessed. The other stuff I could attribute to stuff that we already knew was going to happen, but this is what looks like a new heavy bolter. That probably doesn't sound that exciting on the face of it. After all, Chaos Space Marines have a heavy weapon in the squad, and they have a special weapon in the squad. That's nothing new. To actually get a new heavy bolter along with that actually isn't standout news. It's the fact they've chosen to highlight it that is making me excited. Because I'm going on the basis that we already knew we're going to get Chaos Space Marines. That's not particularly news as such. But highlighting this specifically makes me think that perhaps we're going to get a proper full refresh of the Havocs as well. And that does excite me, because there was a little part of me that was kind of concerned that we would have these new Chaos Space Marine kits, that we'd have a new squad, that you'd have heavy weapons in the squad, that you'd have special weapons in the squad, pretty much the same loadout that you get now, but that Havocs might be left behind a little bit, that we might have that kind of frustrating thing whereby some kits are updated and others just aren't really touched and are kind of left to languish ever so slightly. I mean, to be honest, that's not a completely unreasonable fear to have. Let's be honest. I mean, the Space Marine bike kit is now, I don't know how old, and yet a lot of the Space Marine range has been refreshed since that point. We've had new stuff for other armies when, like, other elements of them have just been languishing in fine cast or, in some cases, even metal for years and years. Them actually highlighting the heavy bolter makes me think that we're not just getting a new Chaos Space Marine kit, as in, here's 10 new Marines with weapon options, we're actually going to get the full refresh of everything involving the kind of standard Chaos Space Marine model usage, if that makes sense. Havocs basically like half a Space Marine squad with more weapons options. That's how that stuff has worked for ages. It's the highlighting of it that's making me think, oh yeah, we actually do need that as well. And by the look of it, they've thought of that, and we might actually get it. That would be nice. Now, one of the other things is that that's kind of made me question a little bit some of the stuff that we've seen before. We saw 3 images, as I say, they'll be cycling around the background of the video, that pretty clearly said to me, Possessed. It's not an unreasonable assumption to make. We've got the guy in the artwork, we've got a dude who focuses around possession, therefore you would expect. But highlighting something as clear as day as a heavy bolter kind of makes me wonder whether there isn't a little bit of sneakiness going on in some of the other images, that perhaps we might be seeing things that aren't quite what we maybe think they are. For instance, the backpack, which I just looked at and went, yeah, sure, it could feasibly be part of something else, not necessarily just Possessed, or indeed it could be an entirely new kind of Possessed. There is the big kind of the tin opener, as I immediately thought of it, which is probably very uncharitable, but there you go. The big old claw is very clear as to what that is. The foot kind of lifting off, it could well be just a dude running. Or maybe it could be some sort of new variation of Possessed that have, shall we say, slightly more interesting options for mobility. And also, the other thing that really the heavy bolter kind of made me think about is, if they're going to do a proper refresh of this range, which it looks like they are, I mean, we're getting Obliterators, we're getting Possessed, we're getting Chaos Space Marines, by the look at it, we're getting Havocs as well. If you're going to do all of that, would you not want to perhaps update things like the Raptors/Warp Talons? Because those are kits that, for me, suffer from the same thing as like the Khorne Berserkers. Those are kits that, for the time, looked pretty dynamic and looked kind of like there was a bit of movement, they had a bit of fluidity to them. And now when you compare them to other models since, because they've got so much better at that, they look kind of a bit off, they look a bit dull, they don't look that interesting. This would be the perfect time to actually update those. And there is an interesting bit of artwork out of the Blood Angels Codex that clearly shows Black Legion Space Marines with wings. That would be a nice way to introduce something like that. Sneak it into someone else's codex months and months before, lots of months before, thinking about it, and then suddenly, along with a bunch of new Black Legion stuff and the next campaign book of Vigilus, you've got a full range refresh for Chaos coming along, complete with Raptors, Warp Talons. I mean, especially Raptors. We've got Harken Worldclaimer now. He's like Lord of the Raptors, he's King of the Raptors, all the Raptors look up to him. Give him something more. I would have liked to see that lot get refreshed at the same time as Harken Worldclaimer, but to be honest, a little bit of me would also, I think, understand and appreciate the sheer joy of Games Workshop going, and along with the second campaign book for Vigilus, here's an entire new Chaos range. Enjoy that, we know you will. I would like that approach a lot, and I'm kind of hoping that's what we might see out of some of this stuff. I've kind of gone from being obviously excited about this stuff. It's hard not to be, as someone who's working on a Chaos army and who has always had a bit of a soft spot for for Chaos as a whole. Actually seeing all this stuff, I have been getting kind of excited. The Daemon Engine pictures have been interesting, but in a way I've just kind of viewed them as things we already know are happening. For some reason, this latest one, the Heavy Bolter, has kind of suddenly, I guess, kicked my brain into overdrive, and I've gone, oh, maybe they're not just showing us all the really obvious shit, and maybe there's some interesting stuff hidden away there, because they could totally do that, and they probably would want to do that, because it would just make the reveal all the more exciting. Okay, now I'm fully in there, completely invested, and just want to see everything now. I mean, we're going to have to wait a while, undoubtedly. We still need to know what's in the rest of the Shadowspear box, which we can probably make an educated guess as to what's in there at this point, but we still need to see what's in the rest of that. We need to know if the Obliterators are going to be a multi-kit for the Mutilators as well. I would assume they are, but you never know. It would make sense to do that. It would also make sense to make the Mutilators worth taking, but we'll have to see. I was excited. Now I'm properly thinking about it, and I'm just getting myself overhyped, which is exactly what Games Workshop want, obviously. The only hope that I have, the main wish that I have for all of this stuff, for all of the Chaos stuff, I do like the new Obliterators. They look really good. Admittedly, they look very similar to what I was aiming for with my Obliterators that I've converted out of Storm Fiends. So, like that lad. I mean, great minds think alike and all that. Not that I'm the first person to have done that by any stretch of the imagination, but I kind of hope they don't go quite as cartoonish as Death Guard. One of the things I don't like about the current Possessed squad, for instance, is it looks too cartoony. It looks way more cartoony than anything else in the Chaos range, and it doesn't quite work because of that. It looks like a child drew the Galvorback, and I'm not a big fan of that look. With New Possessed, I really hope they edge more towards the Galvorback stuff from Forge World, and make it a bit more gritty, a bit more real, a bit less cartoony overall. That's my main hope for all of this stuff. But no matter what they do, I can't help but be really excited by all of it, because the Chaos Rangers need an update for ages, and it's finally getting it. And that's really the most important bit, let's be honest. So yeah, I reckon new Havocs, new Possessed, hopefully multi-part kit for the Obliterators creating Mutilators as well. And we might have a nice, interesting surprise in the form of some weird winged Marines. The artwork for which I will try to remember to actually place in the video, because that'd be helpful. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of the Daemon Engine stuff that you've seen so far. Is anything jumping out of you? Have you managed to match anything up with like older models that look like they could do with a refresh, something that might indicate something a little bit different to what we might have thought it might be? If so, let me know in the comments down below. As always, feel free to click the things, video, Patreon, subscribe, all of that stuff. There is also now a sponsorship option on the YouTube channel. You can click it if you like, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. It's really just there as a, if you want to do a thing to show support, but you're already watching, which is pretty much more support than is deserved anyway, so it's entirely up to you. The option's there if you want. Go for it if you want, don't if you don't want to. As always, as with everything else. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.